There is a kind of silence that is not empty. It is packed full of everything you meant to say and never did. Somewhere, right now, there is a letter you have never sent. This is a story about why we lock those words away, and the one small act that finally sets them free. About an old man, a wooden box of unsent letters, and a young stranger who could read exactly what he was hiding. In a small village at the foot of a dry, brown hillside, there lived an old man named Devin, who had not left his own gate in longer than anyone in the village could remember. He kept his house swept, his small garden orderly, and beneath his sleeping mat, a wooden box with a broken brass clasp that he opened only when he was certain no one was watching. Every morning before the heat of the day arrived, Devin followed the same small rituals. He swept the same 3 steps of packed earth outside his door. He watered the same 2 clay pots of marigolds. He greeted the same neighbors with the same short nod, and none of them ever asked him to stay for tea, because in 20 years he had never once accepted. The villagers had long ago stopped wondering why the old man lived so quietly. They assumed it was simply his nature, the way some men are naturally private, naturally content with their own company. Only Devin knew that his quiet was not contentment. It was a held breath that had lasted 20 years. Inside the box were letters, dozens of them, each one sealed shut with a drop of dark red wax, each one addressed in the same careful hand to a man named Arjun, at an address in a city Devin had never once visited. Arjun was his son. 20 years earlier, after a quarrel neither of them would ever fully explain to anyone else, Arjun had left the village and never come back. Devin had written to him every few months since then, sometimes every few weeks in the hardest years, and every single time he had sealed the letter, written the address, and placed it in the box instead of the post. Not one had ever been sent. One late afternoon, a young woman named Mira arrived in the village with a satchel of paper, ink, and sealing wax, offering to write letters for anyone who could not write for themselves. A trade she carried from village to village, the way some carried cloth or grain. Devin watched her from his gate for 3 days before he finally called her in. "I do not need you to write for me," he said. "I can write well enough on my own." "Then why did you call me?" she asked. He did not answer that. Instead he asked her a question of his own. "How many letters have you carried in your years of walking these roads?" "More than I could count," she said. "Some are found. Most are never even written. People tell me their reasons for that in 100 different ways, and after enough years, I have learned that most of the reasons sound the same underneath." Devin was quiet for a moment. "And the ones that are written," he asked. "How many of those reach where they are going?" "Almost all of them," Mira said. "Once someone finally puts the words on paper, sending them is the easy part. It is the writing people are afraid of." "Not always," Devin said, so quietly she almost did not hear it. He only led her inside, knelt slowly by his sleeping mat, and pulled out the wooden box. Mira sat across from him and looked at the stack inside. Dozens of sealed letters, the ink of the oldest addresses faded nearly to nothing, the wax on some of them cracked with age. "How long?" she asked quietly. 20 years, Devin said. She reached out and lifted one near the bottom of the stack, careful, the way you would lift something that might crumble. "You write beautifully," she said, turning it over in her hands. "Why has none of these ever left this box?" Devin was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know," he said. And then, more honestly, I do. Mira set the letter down gently and waited. She had learned, in her years of carrying other people's words from town to town, that the truest answers came only after a long enough silence. "I tell myself," Devin finally said, "that I am protecting him, that he has built a life without the weight of an old man's regret sitting inside it, and I am doing him a kindness by not sending it." "That sounds like love," Mira said. "It is not love," Devin said. "Watch." He reached into the box and, for the first time in 20 years, broke the wax seal on one of his own letters. His hands shook slightly as he unfolded it. Mira did not move. He read only a few lines aloud, his voice low and unsteady. I am sorry. I have been sorry for so long I no longer remember what it felt like not to be. I do not know if you think of me at all, and some days that not knowing is worse than anything you could ever write back. He folded it closed again, though the seal could never be whole a second time. That is not the letter of a man protecting his son, he said. That is the letter of a man protecting himself. If I never send it, I never have to learn that he does not want it. The box is not kindness, Mira. The box is fear, wearing kindness as a disguise. Mira looked at the stack of 20 years, and then at him. Think, for a moment, about your own box. Maybe it does not have a broken clasp or a stack of sealed letters. Maybe it is a phone number you have not dialed in years. A door you drive past but never knock on. A sentence, I am proud of you, I forgive you, I am sorry, that you have rehearsed 100 times in the shower and said out loud to no one. You have told yourself it is kindness, haven't you? That they are better off without the weight of it. That the timing has simply never quite been right. But sit with Devan's honesty for a moment, because it may be yours too. The box is not kindness. The box is fear, dressed carefully enough that even you believe the costume. Mira asked him a harder question after that. What are you actually afraid of? She said. Not the story you tell yourself, the real one underneath it. Devan looked down at his own hands for a long time before he answered. I am afraid, he said, that I have run out of time to be forgiven. I am 71 years old, Mira. My knees ache before it rains now. My eyes have started to fail me in the evenings. Every year I tell myself there will be another year to finally send one, and every year that has become a little less certain a thing to promise myself. If I send it, he continued, and he throws it away unread, I can survive that. I have already survived 20 years of silence. I know exactly what that costs. But if I do not send it, and I simply run out of years before I do, that is the one thing I do not think I could make peace with, on whatever day turns out to be my last. Mira did not offer comfort right away. She let that sit in the room with them, the way the dust sat in the last of the afternoon light. That is not a small fear, she finally said. That is the realest one there is. She was quiet again, longer this time, before she spoke. My father and I did not speak for the last 3 years of his life, she said, not because of some great quarrel. Just distance and pride, and the quiet certainty that there would always be another season to fix it in. I told myself the same story you told yourself, Devan, that I was giving him space, that the timing would be better later. Devan looked up at her. There was no later, Mira said. He died in the spring, before I had written a single word to him. I did not even have a box of unsent letters to hold on to afterward. I had nothing. Only the sentences I never wrote, which turned out to be the heaviest thing I have ever carried. That is why I do this work now, she said. I cannot write my own letter anymore. So I carry everyone else's, as far as my legs will take me, because I know exactly what it costs to run out of time before you find the courage. Devan reached out, and for a moment, rested his old hand over hers on top of the box. Then she asked him the question that mattered. So which are you more afraid of, sending it, or running out of time to? Devan did not answer with words. He reached for a clean sheet of paper. He did not write for long. Mira watched his hand move slowly, unevenly, an old man's hand, pausing often, crossing nothing out. When he finished, he did not read it aloud, and she did not ask him to. He folded it once, held the wax stick to the small flame Mira had lit for her own work, let a single drop fall onto the seam, and pressed his thumb into it before it could cool. I do not know what to write on the front anymore, he admitted. I have never once used the address I have owned for 20 years, because using it would mean admitting I had finally sent it. Write his name, Mira said gently. I will carry it myself. I pass through his city on my way north within the month. Divan held the letter for a moment before he handed it over, the way you might hold something a final time before setting it down for good. "It is only one letter," he said, almost apologizing. 20 years of them are still sitting in that box behind me. "Then let them sit there," Mira said. "They already did their work. You wrote your way through 20 years of not knowing how to say it, until finally today you did. This is the one that needed to leave. The others were only practice." Devon walked her to the gate himself. The first time in longer than he could remember that he had gone even that far from his own door. The marigolds he watered every morning brushed against his ankles as he passed them, and for once he noticed them, really noticed them. The way you notice ordinary things again after something in you has finally moved. He watched Mira until the road curved out of sight behind the hill, the single letter tucked safe in her satchel among a dozen other people's words, indistinguishable now from all the rest she carried. A neighbor passing by called out, asking if he would like to come for tea that evening. For 20 years, Divan had always said the same polite no. This time, he said yes. He did not know, that afternoon, whether Arjun would write back. He did not know if the letter would arrive to an open hand or a closed door, whether it would be read once and kept, or read once and set aside, the way his own words had been set aside in a box for 20 years. Think tonight about the letter only you are still holding. It does not have to be paper. It might be a call you keep meaning to make, an apology you have rehearsed 100 times and spoken to no one, a simple thank you that has waited so long it has started to feel too late to say. You have told yourself, the way Divan told himself, that you are protecting someone by holding it back. Ask yourself gently whether that is the truth or only the kindest disguise fear has learned to wear. Divan found, standing at his own gate as the sun began to lower over the dry hillside, that he could finally sit with not knowing what would come next. Because for the first time in 2 decades, the not knowing was no longer his to carry alone, in secret. It belonged, now, to the both of them, out in the open air where a thing can finally begin to heal. Tell me, in the comments, what is sitting in your own box tonight, and whether you are more afraid of finally sending it, or of running out of time to. This is Blissful Journey. If Divan's letter felt like it was written for something you are still carrying too, stay a while longer. Subscribe and walk these quiet roads with us.